What's up, First Case Network? My name is Hank Balch. We're back in studio today with your 2025 sterile processing quality improvement experts, Marcy, Konja, and Gregg Agoston from SpecialtyCare. And we have had terrific conversations already about the foundation for sterile processing challenges in the U.S. We talked about staffing constraints. We dove into error reporting. And today we're going to talk about something that undergirds all of that we teed up a little bit last episode, this communication pipeline to and from the operating room and sterile processing, and the critical nature of this communication. We're communicating in some sense all of our goods and supplies, but there's a lot of other types of communication that needs to be going on. So Marcy, kind of kick us off with a little context. Why is it important for us to talk to each other? Let's just start there.
Well, as Hank said last time, silence does not mean success. And if we're not encouraging the OR to tell us about the errors, we can't fix them. We can't address the situation. We don't know about it, so we can't correct it. And we encourage rounding in the OR, rounding by the SPD managers, building that communication and that friendship, that alliance with them, that we want what is best for the patient also, checking in with them, asking, where are your error reports? Did you have any issues today? What do you need? Can I help you with something? And let me help you fill out the form. Just collecting that material and doing something about it and letting them know that, thank you, I got these error reports from yesterday. I've already addressed this, and this. And, hopefully it won't happen again. We're very encouraged that by communicating, the errors will go down. And one of the other things that we look for in communication is a huddle with the OR. And I'm not talking about the huddle that you have in the morning saying, this is what's going on, this is what's left, have a good day, go out there. I'm talking about we look at doing a 3-day huddle where we get 3 days worth of schedules. Today's Monday, so we look at Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're looking at what cases are being done tomorrow, what types of loaners they need, what types of disposables they need. Have we done a lot of, one of the things that we used to find a lot in one of my hospitals was we would do a lot of hernias, and then we'd be running out of some specialty mesh. And that would be an alert to materials that these cases were coming up. Let's make sure we order it. So a 3-day huddle. Tuesday, we're looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're updating. Hey, did those loaners come in already for tomorrow? Making sure that we're planning ahead and we know what's coming up so that we can look at the instrumentation and prioritize like we should. Are there any turnovers? What do we need to be prepared for?
I love the comment at the beginning there, Marcy, about the importance of the sterile processing leader rounding in the operating room for that face time. I'm curious because I have seen that in practice in the industry. What I haven't seen a lot of is the OR leadership rounding in SPD. Do you see value in that? And what kind of recommendations would you give around that practice to the audience?
Well, of course, because it seems to be that a lot of the OR staff does not realize how difficult the job is in sterile processing. Leadership coming down for our huddles, our staff meetings, but also one of the things that I encourage during orientation is that new nurses, new scrub techs have spent at least 3 days down in sterile processing, seeing what happens in decontam, understanding when we send the instruments down like this, what the impact is going to be on sterile processing, understanding how long it takes to inspect a set so that if they're asking for a quick turnover, we know what time it takes and the things that we have to put in place for that. But then I also encourage that during orientation and at least once a year that sterile processing staff observe surgery. And so that they see what it goes on in the OR, the stress that can be in there, what happens when an instrument isn't working or an instrument's missing or the indicator is not there. And having that face where you're now becoming, you pass each other in the hallway and you know you're all part of the same team.
Yeah, that's terrific insight there about the training piece, especially because understanding the stress in that room can help SPD many times over. Like why the nurses sound like they do when they call us with a missing instrument, or if they need another tray, uh, for instance. So this all goes, Greg, to the point of we need more information from each other in the process, and we have to be openly and proactively seeking out that information because, as we talked in the incident reporting episode, it's busy. We got a lot of stuff going on. We're not always thinking about, hey, what do I need to tell the OR? What do I need to tell SPD about what's going on, tomorrow or in 3 days, like Marcy alluded to. So what have you seen be successful in creating these communication structures that are sustainable and then lead to the impacts and results that we're looking for, which is an open flow to drive efficiency and safety for the patient?
Yeah, great question, Hank. So, one of the things that we work with our client accounts on is, every week we will have, and depending on what their structure is, maybe bi-weekly, but usually it's weekly. We want to schedule a stakeholder meeting, right? And that stakeholder meeting is invaluable in the sense that we talk about, okay, what has been the production in SPD? What have been the challenges, so we can surface those? What has been the quality issues related either to OR or SPD, and just kind of really work through those, and then highlight specifically any, focus on what delays occurred, like what cases were delayed, by how long, and then if there were any canceled cases or any adverse events to patients. So it's really kind of a great way to build on that communication. Marcy said that 3-day huddle is invaluable. And then this is really just another higher level communication with key stakeholders in the process. Usually executive team should be tied into this to help, enlighten them on the challenges in the SPD. And it gives the SPD manager or director the opportunity to highlight what areas they need help with. We talked about the 4 variables for success, right? Number of staff, proficiency of the staff, equipment and supplies, and/or efficiency. That gives them a format to present where they need additional resources or help to bring up levels of those 4 variables that tell them whether or not they're going to be successful meeting their production and quality goals.
Yeah, I don't think you use this phrase, Greg, but what you're alluding to is a little bit of mutual accountability with those stakeholder meetings, even especially if you've got that administration C-suite involvement in these meetings, because it can be a challenge from all directions. If you've got perioperative leadership that want to improve the SPD process and there's no buy-in in SPD, or vice versa, you got an SPD that wants to fix things, but there's no buy-in from the OR. It can be really helpful sometimes to just get that administrator in the room for those stakeholder meetings that you alluded to and say, we're all in this together, guys, and we've got to work together, got to communicate proactively on the challenges, what's working, what's not, where those future opportunities are. Before we move on, so on the next episode, we're going to jump into loaner instrumentation, but I want to give you all one more opportunity. If there's any other important communication priorities or strategies that you think it's important for folks to be thinking about as they're looking at this challenge in their operating room.
Yeah, one thing, Hank, I think it should mention as well is that there a critical component to communication, or where we see a lot of times things fall apart, is related to loaner or primarily loaner instrumentation, and that creates significant challenges. So a real focus in the communication, and this involves the physician office scheduling, the scheduler in the OR, as well as the vendor representative, to ensure that everything flows smoothly with that. So because we've seen so many challenges, particularly around orthopedic, neurospine, loaner equipment, that should be a focus for every hospital.
Yeah, and we're adding in a literal third party into the equation in that scenario. So exactly. Yeah, no surprise. it brings challenges and complexities. And as I said, wouldn't you know, we're going to be diving into that topic here on episode 7. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Obviously, I want to thank you all for sharing this insight. You know, these conversations are not just interesting, they're critically important for improving the quality of care that each and every one of us, when we wake up in the morning and go to the OR, when we go to SPD, that's what we want, is quality care. And we all know that these challenges are what confront us from the communication side, the error reporting side, the staffing side. These conversations matter. And I think this is just a terrific, high quality expert series that we've got rolling here in 2025. If you've been tuning in and you're not already connected with Gregg and Marcy through LinkedIn, make sure to get directly connected with them. And feel free to reach out. We're going to have their email contact information. If you've got questions around, hey, I love that 3-day huddle idea, but I need a little bit more information on how to kick that off. Or, hey, I've tried rounding and it doesn't seem to be working. What am I missing? That's why they're there to help. Please reach out and get connected with them today. And we'll see y'all again next episode to dive into loaner instrumentation and quality improvement on this series.